Hi, Cheryl Ann. Nice to see you. I love it. Oh, we've got some people. McKenna. Hi, McKenna.
Hi, we are streaming from a retirement home.
Oh, how fun is that? Whereabouts are you located?
We're in Baltimore, Maryland.
Nice. Well, hi there to all of you back there. Can
Got
see a couple of you. Yeah. Oh, it's going to be a fun class today. I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
And let's see.
Good morning, Ravina.
Good morning, Nikki. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. The last class I took from you was the heart class.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, well, I'm happy to have you here today in this class. Yeah, they all kind of, I'm noticing all my classes kind of overlap. So I'll be talking about something and think, oh yeah, but in the other class, I go into more detail about something. So I kind of ad lib my classes a little bit because I'm getting to know you all. And even if you're brand new, you're going to get all the basics. I follow the slides, but I do add in a few, sometimes it's stories or questions I get asked from learners that have done the class before. So,
well, I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, good, good. Okay, so let's, I'm going to just check here. I'm going to start the record button. That is important, so I don't forget to do that. So welcome to all of you that are here. I don't know if we had tons of people this morning that had signed up, but we do have, and people join in as well. So one more minute here and I will get my screen ready to share with you. Okay, I'm gonna put this down here. All right, so here is the screen. Hopefully you guys can all see that and it's big enough for you. And this is lovely. So today, now have any of you been in any classes where we have been live streaming? You heard that term? That's a kind of a new term for me. Yeah. So we're live streaming a lot of our classes now. And the reason we're doing that is just to get more people interested or, be able to see our classes. Okay, sorry, just give me 1 second here. I'm just going to stop sharing just for a moment. I just had a little request here from, oh, maybe she's gone already. Maybe she's, oh no, that's already done. Okay. So when we live stream, we have our helper from our support area, and they can come in and they do something in the system. You probably hear them saying, can you make me host? So that they become our host and then they can live stream. So we're all live streamed. We're all doing good here. Okay. For those of you that haven't heard what that means, when we live stream, what we're doing is we have Get Set Up TV. It can sometimes go on our Facebook Live as well. And so it just means that you guys are here in the class, you register for the class, you're here, I can see you, you can see me, we can interact, we can ask questions, I can hear your voice. Anybody who's live streaming, they're just kind of coming into the back seat, and they can listen in, but they can't participate. So we encourage people to register the next time so that they can participate. Plus they don't get my post email, I don't believe, with my, my handouts and stuff. Sometimes I give out handouts. So as you can see, today's optimal brain health to minimize dementia. So we're going to look at how to look at the risk factors and how we can diminish our chances of getting dementia. For those of you that have not met me before, my name is Ravina. I am a healthcare professional, I guess you would say. I have recently retired. I was working, I was working as a nurse for many years and in health and wellness. So I've been doing it for many, many years. I do love anything to do with health and wellness. I love prevention. In my years as a nurse, I saw too many people in the hospital and the heartache that goes around somebody getting some disease and being sick and just not at their best. And so I really wanted to focus on what can we do? What can we do to help ourselves? What can we do, whether we're at home, whether we're in a senior facility, and there's lots of amazing facilities around the country. What can we do still to ensure that we have good, proper health and we feel at our best? Because that's what life is about, is living our best life until we don't anymore, right? So that's, for me, is what's really, really important. So I love to teach and mentor, and I connected with Get Set Up not too long ago. I guess it was in end of January when I started, so I'm pretty new. So we love to learn from our learners. So that's wonderful. I love when you put your cameras on. I like to see everybody's faces, and I see a group there in Baltimore that are here, which is wonderful. Ideally, if you can put your camera on, even if just for a few minutes, so we can say hello to each other in the beginning. It's a nice way to get to know each other. We are recording this class, so you can, hi Paula, you can email us at the end at help@getsetup.io, and you can get a recording of this whole entire class. So you can listen to it over and over again if you need to. Maybe there's something that you missed and you want to hear it again, or you can just take the class again. And if you're joining live stream, hello to all of you that are out there in live stream world. I don't know who you are. I can't see who you are, but you're welcome to be here, and would love you to join a class at a future date. And the last thing I want to just mention is that we do often talk about services or products in our classes, and they're probably things that are dear to my heart or something that's familiar to me. We do not get any kickbacks or get paid by any services or products, so just so you're aware of that. So today we are going to learn, this is so key and so exciting, we're going to learn the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's. And boy, do we hear those words interchangeably a lot. On the news, in movies, in conversation, people use these words interchangeably, but they are different. And so we're going to learn about that today. We're going to understand the risk factors for dementia. What risk factors are in our control versus what is not in our control. Of course, we want to know what's in our control, because that means we can do something about it. And lastly, we're going to learn about optimal brain foods. There are specific foods that our brain loves. We're also going to learn about body practices that will help to fuel exercise and train our brain. So all good things for the brain today. Let's get started. I'm going to ask a question, and you can just put your hand up, or you can, or just take yourself off of mute and shout your answer out. But who here knows how many different types of dementia we have in the world today? Like, it changes obviously because things get, created and discovered. Does anybody have yeah, Paula? Oh, Cheryl Ann, go ahead.
Oh, maybe 5. 6.
Okay,
29,
yeah.
29.
29, you think? Yeah, good guesses. I think when I was before I looked it up, and really, I had to look it up a few times because I just didn't believe it. I figured there was around 5 or 6-ish, because I could count a few on my hand, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's a few I've never heard of. I mean, I've been in nursing for over 30 plus years, so I thought, no, I've probably heard about most of them. But the answer to this question, okay, be ready for this. There's over 400 types of dementia.
Oh,
Isn't that crazy? Over 400. I even looked it up again a couple times to think, did I just read that in one research paper? Now, of course, there's all sorts of information on the internet. So some that might not be as good as others, but there's like WebMD. There's some valid sources to look up your information. Over 400. And I just learned about one particular type of dementia recently that had a really good ending story to it, which if I get a chance to, I'll talk to you about that one, because I was really intrigued by that. All right. Who can guess what the most common dementia is out there?
Alzheimer's.
All right, good answer. Anybody else want to guess?
I think it's Lewy body dementia.
Okay, that's a great guess as well. Anybody else want to mention or think of a type of dementia that they think is the most common? Well, the answer is Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's disease. It accounts for 60 to 80% of all our dementias. Now, we just learned there's 400. So we got 400. And out of all 400, Alzheimer's takes up 60 to 80% of all of the dementias. Wow, that is a huge amount. That's why we hear about Alzheimer's a lot. So now from where we are right now, what we have learned is dementia is kind of like the umbrella term. So we hear the word dementia. Oh, he has dementia now. Oh, she's got dementia. That is the umbrella term for over 400 different types of dementias. Alzheimer's being the most common. So is Alzheimer's a dementia? Yes. Is dementia Alzheimer's? No. So you can understand the differences. Now it's 60-80% because sometimes things are misdiagnosed, sometimes things are underdiagnosed, like missed. Like in the olden days, maybe we just said, oh, that person's senile, and we didn't go any further checking anything else. We just said, oh, they're losing their mind, and we just left it at that. Well, we are way more advanced than that now, so we can actually figure out exactly what's going on with this person. All right, so here's the next question to ask you guys. What do you think is the second most common type of dementia? Think of it now that you know Alzheimer's is one of them.
Vascular.
Oh, yes. Okay, good answer. Well, Paula's right on the mark today. Vascular dementia is the second most common. Now, I didn't get a percentage, but if you know anybody who has had a stroke, now I don't mean like the little mini stroke, you know, that can happen where you don't even realize something happened until your doctor looks at your scan and says, you know, you had a little mini stroke. Typically, when you have had a stroke, you are at greater chance and risk of developing vascular dementia. And why is that? Because you've had oxygen deprivation to your brain. When you've had the stroke, it stopped the oxygen to your brain for a moment, and then you can develop this type of dementia. Nikki, did you want to ask a question?
Yes, I did. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Okay.
would that be the same as a TIA?
Yeah, when you have, yes. Yeah, like yes, you have like those mini strokes. That's another name. That is another name. And sometimes we don't even realize, maybe we were feeling a bit sluggish one afternoon and we didn't even really realize that we were feeling sluggish, but all of a sudden, you know, we're having trouble speaking or something, or we think we're just tired, we go to bed, then the next day, and then we go to the hospital or we go to our next doctor's appointment and they do a scan because you think that something wasn't quite right. This happened to my cousin who's like in her 50s. She'd actually had a tiny little mini stroke.
Yes,
Yeah.
my husband had been diagnosed after the fact with 3 of them. And the last one, he did lose his speech for about an hour. Yeah.
Yes, and so there you go. So when it's a mini thing, like we can use those words interchangeably. So TIA, for anybody who's listening who wants to understand, it actually stands for transient. So it just sort of shows up. Ischemic attack. TIA, transient ischemic attack, and that is it's basically a stroke that can last just like a couple minutes, you know, and you get that brief block of oxygen to the brain. So it doesn't give you real permanent damage necessarily, but you might feel some numbness or some weakness in your body all of a sudden. But if you're home by yourself and you have like a tiny little stroke like that, you just kind of get on with things, right? You just think, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed, or I'm so tired, and you go to bed. So, and that it's very common. That is your body's warning. Your body is warning you that the big one could happen if you don't take care of whatever it is you need to take care of. So it could be to do with nutrition. It could be to do with you got some blockages happening, and that little bit of extra stress that happened that morning caused that to happen. All right, so now we know if you have a family member that has dementia, you don't necessarily think, oh gosh, I'm going to get it. Maybe they had a stroke and they ended up with vascular dementia. Okay, so I want to ask the question here, and you can put your hand up if, for all of you in the back there in Baltimore. Okay, who thinks that dementia is just part of normal aging? Anybody think it's part of normal? Because we hear a lot about it. As we age, dementia happens. Do you think it's part of normal aging? Well, it is not part of normal aging. Hooray! Isn't that great? I'm so happy that dementia isn't just part of normal aging, because gosh, who wants it to be inevitable? No, I don't want it to be inevitable. I don't want to lose my ability to think properly and remember my memories through my life. So as the slide says, in fact, most of us will have our memories as we go into our older adult years until we pass. So we're going to remember our childhood memories, hopefully. We're going to have just some good memories throughout our whole entire life. That is really great to know. But some of you might be saying, yeah, but my memory is not as sharp as it used to be when I was young. What is that all about? So this is not considered a dementia. Now, one person in one class said age-associated dementia. It is not a dementia, okay? Be clear about that. Age-associated memory impairment. About 40% of us will over 65. So if you're over age 65, about 40%, now I'm not in that camp yet, give me another 9 years and I'll be in that camp. About 40% of us will have some kind of memory issues. So you might go, oh, I don't quite remember that word. What am I thinking? I have to look it up, or you have to Google it because you just can't think of the term. You used to know it like off by heart, but now you're thinking, gosh, I can't remember what happened. So that's just where your memory might have a few little, differences than when you were, say, younger. We just call that age-associated. That is not dementia. Do not mistaken that for dementia. Do not think, oh my God, I'm losing my mind and now I'm just not going to try to remember anything. Don't do that. Okay, so we know that there's age-associated. One of the very biggest questions that I get asked many, many, many times over throughout my career and even now is, hey, I have a family member that has Alzheimer's. Does that mean I'm going to get it? Like, so scared about it. We have this a lot. And let's face it, a lot of us are a little bit worried about Alzheimer's because we hear about Alzheimer's a lot. I want to just say here, we'll get to the answer in just 1 second. But they've done polls and studies and asked people, would you rather get cancer? I mean, it's a terrible study or terrible survey, but would you rather have cancer or Alzheimer's, or like dementia or Alzheimer's? And most people will say they'd rather have cancer. It's like scary, right? But that's because nobody wants to be messing with the mind. Nobody wants to forget the memories. They don't want to forget their loved one. They don't want to forget their kids. They want to have a clear mind. So the answer to the question, I have a family member with Alzheimer's, will I get it? The simple answer is no. That's really good news. That is because Alzheimer's disease is what we call sporadic. We've heard that word sporadic, but in this way, sporadic is meaning it does not run in families. For the most part, Alzheimer's does not run in families. Now, there is a small percentage that we consider about 5% that we consider hereditary, or what we call familial. So familial Alzheimer's is a thing. So if you know somebody and you're like, you think that my stats are off, it really is a small percentage where it's hereditary. When this is the case, we're talking about a parent, excuse me, a mother, a father, or a sibling. So a direct family member who has truly been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, your risk goes up quite quickly. Now, there's a couple things that you can consider here. Well, a couple things. If you have the hereditary type of Alzheimer's, you most likely would have seen symptoms already, like in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s. So, you know, when you hear about those, you know, in movies or in the news, you hear about, like, we had a newscast person, somebody in my channel I used to watch all the time, young girl, woman, she was early 50s and she just couldn't remember her lines anymore. She was having troubles on the news. And as it turned out, she had that early onset Alzheimer's because it did run in her family. Now she's still alive, and she's in a memory care, they call them memory care facilities, that are very specific and focused for people that are having the issues with memory and like Alzheimer's. And so she's in a home now. I mean, she's like 53, I think. And it's so sad because she was like a brilliant, brilliant lady. Deborah Hope was her name, is her name, Deborah Hope. If you're here in Canada, and it was on, I think, Global News, our Global News. So if you have a family member, direct family member, the chances are a lot higher. And if you have more than one family member, there's a pretty good chance. But keep in mind, if you've had a healthy memory and healthy mind, and you're into your 60s, you probably don't have that genetic thing passed down to you that's going to cause that. So I wanted to be clear about that, because for anybody who does have hereditary Alzheimer's, it's a big deal, right? One last thing I'll say about this to you all is, if you are at all worried about it, you can't just go and get a test to see if you've got hereditary Alzheimer's. You do have to have a direct relative that has it, and that you are also having some symptoms here in Canada anyway. And then you can get tested. It's genetic testing that they do to test to see if you've got that gene. In the United States, it might be different. You might, maybe, I don't know, maybe you can get tested more easily. They're very particular here, because it's one of those things, like, you don't want just everybody getting tests that they don't have that risk factor. Okay, so now we know that Alzheimer's, for the most part, is most of the dementia, like takes up the big chunk of the dementia. So we're going to focus a bit on it. We know that Alzheimer's, the big portion of Alzheimer's, is sporadic, so it doesn't run in families. But what is it due to? Why do we get Alzheimer's? Well, it's due to a complex combination of three things, just three things, okay? One is our genes. Two is our environment. Three is our lifestyle. So when you hear that, does that give you some hope then? I hope so, because we're here in the class, we're learning all about brain health. Environment, lifestyle, those two sound like they're things that I have some control over. Genetics, maybe not so much. Okay. So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty now. Like, what things can we do to improve our health, specifically our brain health? What things can we do to minimize our chances of getting dementia? I want to know all about these. I know these off by heart. But let's start. We talk about risk factors. Can anybody explain what a risk factor is? It's hard sometimes to explain it. Everyone kind of knows what it is, but I like to break down these things in my classes. So, like, you know, we're not in grade 5, but just like, so we really understand what we're talking about. So, unless somebody wants to explain it or take a shot at it. Do you want to, Nikki?
Would it be knowing that if you're doing something wrong and you go ahead and do it anyway, that's your risk you're taking, that it will happen to you?
Yeah, good. That's a great way of explaining it. It's hard to explain it because but when I show you the actual definition, but that's a great way of explaining it. You know, if you're doing something, you know, it's not great what you're doing, it's probably not the best thing, and you're putting yourself more at risk. So a risk factor, the actual definition is, risk factors are characteristics of what? Those three things come up again, right? So you're going to have this in your memory at the end of this. The characteristics of our lifestyle, our environment, and our genetic background that increase your likelihood of getting a disease. Whenever you hear risk factor, it's always to do with disease or a medical condition. So what is your risk? So think of words like likelihood. What's another word? Like probability, What's another word? There's different synonyms, like what's your likelihood? What's your probability? What's the chances? There's another word, chances. What are your chances of getting X, Y, Z? What is the probability of getting such and such? What is the likelihood of you getting that disease? So those are the ways of thinking about what risk factors are. If ever you hear risk factor in the news, it's talking about, oh, what are your risk factors for getting COVID? Like, we hear that a lot, right? Your risk factor goes up if you walk into a grocery store without a mask on. For those of you that don't believe in masks, think about your immunity. For those with lower immunity, you're at higher risk of getting COVID. If you are an older adult, you're at higher risk of getting it or showing symptoms of it. Let's just say in general here in Canada, if you're younger, you might get it, but you might not show as many symptoms. So just to give you an example, there's many risk factors for getting diabetes. If you eat tons and tons of sugar or you're obese, or you are, what's another thing? It runs in your family. You could be at more risk. There could be hereditary diabetes. So giving you examples of it. All right, now we're going to go into what are the risk factors. So I'm going to talk about 12 to 13. I'm actually going to talk about 13 risk factors that are in our control versus what's not in our control. What's out of our control? They're up on the screen. Our age and our genetics. I mean, they're doing a whole lot of stuff playing around with our genetics. So who knows, maybe one day they can manipulate that. But for right now, without getting too creepy about it, genetics are genetics, right? Because they do all sorts of things with genetics now. Our age, doesn't matter how rich or poor we are. We could be the most famous person on the planet, but guess what? You're still going to age no matter what you do. You might be found the fountain of youth, but you're still going to be a biological, 1 year older. You're going to be 1 more year older, just like all of us. So that's out of our control. So let's focus on what is in our control. Our first thing is blood pressure. Did you know that if you have higher blood pressure, so high blood pressure, we call that, what's the other word for high blood pressure? Does anybody know? You probably heard it. Hypertension. Yeah, that's right, Denise. Hypertension is a fancier word for high blood pressure. If you are an older adult and you have high blood pressure in this sort of midlife of our life, you are on average more likely to develop dementia. That's a little scary, isn't it? And that's compared to the group of people with normal blood pressure. Now, if you've been paying attention in this class, we talked about vascular dementia, right? And vascular dementia happens when you have a stroke. What happens when we have a stroke? Sometimes, our blood pressure is sustained and it's too high for too long. We can have a stroke. So it makes sense that you're at higher risk of dementia if you have high blood pressure. Now, here's the cool thing about this risk factor. You're going to get this list, and I'm going to give you a full handout that's got all of these. You're going to get 13 risk factors with my little description. So you don't have to take notes if you just want to listen. Here's the neat thing about it. If you know you have high blood pressure, maybe you go to the pharmacy, put your arm into like the little cuff that they have, the free thing that you can check your blood pressure. And you've got high blood pressure. So you're going to take care of this. You're going to go see your doctor. You're going to find out what you can do to reduce your blood pressure. Maybe you go on a medication for a certain period of time or for a long-term amount of time. But now your blood pressure is within the norm. You have now taken care of that risk factor. You can put your green check mark next to that one to say, I have taken care of my risk factor of high blood pressure. And that is not a risk for me anymore because I'm managing it. So I want you to be clear on this. So just because you have high blood pressure at one point and you're managing it does not mean it's a risk factor for you anymore. So if you're managing it, so that goes with a few other ones, but we'll get to in a sec. The next one's smoking. Now, for any of you that smoke, I want to greatly encourage you to look at some ways to stop smoking. Smoking is not a good. The only thing that smoking is good for is, in the past, has been like socializing, making sure you take a break when you're working because you're feeling like a smoke. You're going to go outside. You're going to get fresh air. while you're smoking, but you're going to at least take a break. Many nurses smoke. Secret, many nurses smoke, and probably right now because of all the stress, they're smoking. And why are they doing that? Because it forces them to take a break. Now, being in the nursing field for so long, I used to see this a lot with nurses. It just forced them to go outside and get away from their patients, because it was like a, 24/7, they could just be working constantly. Do they even take a pee break? Barely, right? Like when you work in the medical field, especially in these days, do they even take a break? They probably don't even take a break. But anyways, that's why smoking, people do tend to smoke. It gives them a break. It was a very social thing. You're drinking, smoking, it kind of goes together. But I want to suggest to you, listen to these stats real clear. 45% higher risk of getting dementia if you smoke, period. 45%. You are almost like, that's so huge. And they've researched this over and over and over again. If you smoke, chances of getting dementia skyrocket. Yeah. But here's the exciting news about it. So you got your smoker, you got your non-smoker. Guess where the ex-smoker goes?
Where?
You got your smoker, your non-smoker. Your ex-smoker, maybe within like a day or two of not smoking, you might be closer to this side, but your ex-smoker is way over here with the non-smoker. So what that means is, if you can stop smoking and maintain that lifestyle without smoking, you now become the non-smoker and you reduce that 45% down. That's the good news. It doesn't mean you're going to still stay up close to the smoker person. No, you get to become the non-smoker. Very, very good, important news to know. So if you know anybody who smokes, just try to encourage them to seek the support. There's lots of amazing support out there now for smoking. And isn't it like crazy? Like, you can't smoke anywhere anymore. Even outside your own house, like, oh, maybe your house, but you probably have a neighbor complain. If you live in a condo, you can't stand anywhere near the front entrance of the condo. Like they shuffle you off to like the field. Like you're not even allowed to smoke. On our ferry system, when we take, you can take your car onto the ferry. You can't smoke in your car. You're not allowed to smoke anywhere on the ferry. There's no smoking designation areas anymore. And in restaurants in Canada and maybe in the United States, you can't smoke in a restaurant anymore. Do you remember when they used to smoke in restaurants? Do you remember you'd be eating and there would be, oh yeah, put me away from the smoking section, because there was a smoking section?
Yes.
Yeah, I even remember at corporate working in a office building, and there was a smoke room. Like on your break, you could go down to the smoke room. And unfortunately, I was terrible. I used to go with my friend who smoked and sit in this bloody room. Sorry for my language. I'd be in this room, everyone's smoking, and I'd be sitting there having a coffee break with my friend Doug, feeling all cool. And I'm just taking in all the secondhand smoke. Ugh, not good. Anyways.
Well, I used to smoke at my desk.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, Denise. Yes. And you know what? Not to say what age you are, you don't have to say, but at 55, I remember the big rule, no smoking at work anymore. But as soon as it was overtime, 4 p.m. hit, boom, it's overtime, you could light up your cigarette. Crazy, isn't it now? Like when you think about it. Okay, let's move on to the third one. Okay, I'm going to just add one in.
10 years non-smoking.
Good for you, Denise. That's awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I'm going to just add one in before cholesterol. Diabetes is a risk factor. So if you have diabetes, try to get it under control. If you have type 2 diabetes, which used to be called adult onset diabetes, it's now just called type 2. Unfortunately, we have lots of young people that have type 2 now, so we can't call it adult onset. If you can get your diabetes under control, you can almost reverse your diabetes and become what they call post-diabetic. That's a term now. You're diabetic, you can become post-diabetic because it is a lifestyle disease. I'm not talking about the juvenile diabetes or the type 1. Right, that's unfortunately part of your genes, and you've got it. But I'm talking about type 2. Your lifestyle has pushed you into diabetes. You can reverse that. That is a risk factor to dementia. The next one, cholesterol levels. Cholesterol levels is kind of like the blood pressure. If you are going to see your doctor on a fairly regular basis and you get your blood work done to find out what your cholesterol level is, you've got your bad LDLs and your good HDLs. You want to have lots of good and low LDLs. We need cholesterol in our bodies to function, for our systems to run smoothly, for that lubrication in our body. So don't be scared of good cholesterol. So eating your avocados and the healthy fats. If you can get your cholesterol level into the norm, you can get rid of this risk factor. If you keep your cholesterol high and you don't pay attention and you're eating all the fatty trans fat foods, you are at higher risk of developing dementia, period. So that's a good reason to kind of get your cholesterol down. The next one is obesity and lack of physical exercise. Whoa, they go together, because if you are obese or overweight, likely you are moving your body very minimally. So if you are, say, even if you're in a wheelchair, hopefully wherever you live, you've got, maybe you can do chair yoga, maybe you can do some movement in a chair. Maybe you do a assisted walk, get out of the wheelchair and move around a little bit. You want to move your body. So if you can get your weight and your, back to sort of more optimal ideal weight, you are getting rid of this risk factor. So you can put a green check mark next to that one. It kind of goes now with diet. So with diet, if you're eating an unhealthy diet, what is an unhealthy diet? What do we think of?
Fried foods.
Fried, so bad fats, high sodium, another word for salt. So high salty foods. Where do we get high salty foods from? Does anybody know?
Junk food, chips, junk food.
All those processed foods.
Yeah.
Yes.
Adding salt.
That's right. Well, if you can add some good, like Celtic salt, the Himalayan salts, those have so many other minerals. That's actually great salt. The iodized, salt that comes in the box, not so good for you. If you have a can of soup, oh my gosh, the sodium is through the roof, right? If you eat processed foods, anything that's packaged, likely it's going to have this high salt. That's how it lasts on your shelf for 10 years or 20 years. There's foods that last over 20 years. I mean, I'll admit, like my mom was, I love my mom, and she's not here with us anymore, but she'd be watching my classes right now, I would say, because she loves anything to do with nutrition. She had some things in her pantry that I don't know, I think they were from a long time ago, but they still looked good because they were packaged with all this salt and preservatives. The other thing with diet would be an increase in the sugars. You got lots of sugars in there. That's just not a great diet. I want you to just think of the rainbow again, eating the rainbow. Alcohol. Okay, this is all I'm going to say about alcohol. I am not against drinking alcohol. If you do drink alcohol and you do it in an adult proper way, great. If you are excessively drinking, you are at higher risk. You almost double your chances of getting dementia if you excessively drink. What does excessively drinking mean? That means when you are out of control, where it's not, the alcohol controls you, you don't control it. If you can't go without a day without not having alcohol, then that might mean that you might have an alcohol issue. If you binge drink every weekend excessively is when you can't say no. It's like food freedom. If you can pass by the donuts that were brought into the lunchroom for free and say, you know what, that's not this time, then you've got freedom from that food. If you go, oh gosh, there's free donuts in the lunchroom, I got to get there and get it, even if you don't eat it that moment, but you're going to squirrel it away for later, that's when you kind of don't have food freedom, because it's like a freebie. Oh my gosh, free donuts or free pizza or free whatever, and you feel you need to eat it, then there might not be that freedom. So think of that with the alcohol. I'm not going to tell you if it means 4 drinks or 5 drinks or 2 drinks or 1 drink, but you are at higher risk of dementia. Levels of formal education. What they say about this one is, if you actively use your brain throughout your life, and I want to just congratulate all of you that are here learning, you are learners in your older adult years, you are actively using your brain. you build up what we call in the medical field a cognitive reserve. You're building up this cognitive reserve. Your brain is a muscle. You need to keep it moving. So you're using your brain, you build this cognitive reserve, you're protecting your brain, you are at less risk of getting dementia. If you get into your older years and you're just sitting around and you're not, you're not coming to a class like this, or you're not learning a new language, or you're not doing something that sparks interest in your brain, you might be at risk because of just you're not educating, you're not trying to learn, you're not doing anything to keep your brain active. Depression is an interesting one, because with depression, the researchers are sort of like on two camps. Some research feel depression is a risk factor for dementia, like what we're talking about. Others feel that depression is an early sign of dementia. And some feel it's kind of both. So either way, depression's not a great one. Again, try and get your depressive symptoms and stuff on track. Try and there's lots of different treatments. We're not going to talk about that in today's class. I might create a class on how to improve our moods and mild to moderate depression. But it is a risk factor, so keep that in mind. Head injuries. This one's kind of obvious, I think. Repeated or severe head injury can lead to dementia. So I always think of like sports, or like falling off your bike without a helmet on, banging your head, soccer players constantly heading the ball. We've got football players, we have wrestlers, we have boxers. Oh my gosh. There's research and studies out there that boxers are at 70% higher chance of getting dementia, or sorry, Alzheimer's specifically, because of their career. They're constantly getting banged in the head. You're shaking that poor brain so many times. Sugar Ray Robinson, he ended up getting Alzheimer's. He's a boxer. Anything that's going to bang your head, and sometimes, as a child, you fall on your head. I mean, that can kind of add some permanent damage. You're just at higher risk. Hearing loss is an interesting one. This one's kind of like the cholesterols, the blood pressure. If you can get it under control, then you can get rid of that risk factor. But what I mean by hearing loss is, you got the hearing loss. You go to family events. One person, you can kind of understand what they're saying. Now there's 5 people in the room. The nephews, the grandkids are talking. Everybody's talking a mile a minute. You can't understand anything because you can't hear exactly what's going on. You can't differentiate. So what do? You start to withdraw. You start to isolate yourself from society, basically. Are you even taking care of yourself that well if you don't take care of your hearing loss? Are you hearing the news properly? Are you keeping up with your daily activities? That's what they're saying. You are at higher risk of getting dementia if you let the hearing loss just take over and you just become kind of like a zombie almost. You're not participating anymore. So if you can get a hearing aid, something to aid your hearing, then you can get rid of this risk factor. So that's an important one. Now, the last 2 I'm going to talk about real quick. Lack of sleep, poor sleep. Oh my gosh. Think of your brain as this amazing muscle. When you sleep and you get into that deep sleep, so you go from the light sleep, you get into REM sleep, you get into deep sleep. That is when your brain does its work. And what does it do? It does its little cleaning. It's got a little brush out. It's trying to flush that beautiful water you drank during the day. It's now flushing your brain and cleaning out all the stuff around your neurons. Okay, that's exactly what it's doing if you get a good sleep. There's a thing called amyloid betas. Kind of a funny name, but it's think of like particles of protein. These little things are floating around in the brain. So if you flush it with water, and at nighttime, your brain itself, it does these little starts flushing out that stuff. Comes out in your urine in the morning. If you give a good night's sleep, give your brain a good night's sleep, it can do its work to maintain and repair what it needs to. If it doesn't, guess what those little particles turn into? They turn into little plaques on your brain, and those plaques damage your brain neurons. not so good. Anything to damage brain neurons can lead to dementia. So there's the one of the most interesting ones. If you're not getting a good night's sleep, figure out a way to get better sleep. The last one I want to just mention is living near a busy road. Now, I live on a moderately busy road, but we've been testing our air quality. We have one of those purifiers, like a Dyson purifier. They're kind of expensive, but we put it on automatic. When we open our balcony door, within seconds, that machine revs up because it's getting particles that we can't see coming in from the outside. If you live near a busy road, the noise itself is not good for you, but it's the pollution from the car and truck exhaust that they feel, and this has been hugely researched, estimates that people are more at risk of getting dementia if they live near a busy road. It's kind of a weird statistic, but boy, if you do live near a busy highway or a busy road, keep that in mind to make sure you keep your air, help to keep your air clean. I mean, it kind of goes without saying, if you go out for your walk, good for you, you're getting out in nature and you're walking, but are you walking on a busy road and are you taking in all the fumes from the cars? Try to think of that. Now, what they're saying is 50 meters to a busy road. So 50 meters is what we say in Canada, but we also say 164 feet. So if you can estimate 164 feet, are you that close to a busy road? Okay, 164 feet. All right, let's, we still got some time left, but I want to go through some of the really important things. So simply think of it this way, if it doesn't make sense, but dementia develops. Why? When we have so many of these risk factors, we've learned 13 of them. These risk factors, if they're all present, you are bombarding your brain and your brain does not get the chance to repair itself. But if you can get rid of a couple of these risk factors, take them away, and now you only have a few risk factors, your brain has a chance to do its cleanup, right? So that's the best way to explain it. If you want to improve your brain health, let's get rid of some of these risk factors. Like Denise, she's quit smoking. She's feeling fantastic. It's been 10 years. You know, that's a huge accomplishment. Maybe you can just get rid of that processed food out of your diet. You're giving yourself a better chance. If you're diabetic, maybe you can become post-diabetic if you've got type 2. If you're a smoker, maybe you just stop smoking with some help and support, obviously. If you have a hearing issue, get your hearing aid checked and get it, make sure you wear it. I've got well, Papa, we call him Papa Roy. He's my brother's in-law. So he's always at Christmas. He's always at events with us. Half the time he forgets to even put his hearing aid in. So, all right, we're going to talk about what can we do? What can we do for brain health? This is what we're going to spend the last part of the class. Be physically active, move your body. I call it movement, not exercise. Exercise sounds like a chore. It sounds hard. It sounds, who wants to do exercise? Just move your body, put on some music, move around. If you're in a chair, do some chair yoga, do some stretches, stretch your arms out. Movement, just any kind of physical activity, your brain will love it. The next one is socially active. Be socially active. Come to classes, meet the guides that you know, say hello, have a conversation, especially if you live by yourself. Come to classes, get on Zoom calls with, say, some friends, family members, stay connected. This picture is lovely. There's these guys. I'm just going to imagine, I always imagine that they just either were sailing or maybe they played bocce ball or something. And now they're doing a little barbecue down on the beach. They're talking about, I always say, my dad goes to a little club. He used to pre-COVID, but the men get together is to solve the world problems. That's a little joke. Are there any men in this class, Brandon? Okay. There's not too many men here. So I think it's hilarious because when I say to Dad, how is coffee club? He goes to the library, like pre-COVID. Hopefully it starts up again. He goes, oh yeah, we solved all the world problems today. It's a little funny joke. So, okay. The third thing we can do for our brain health, challenge our brain. Get that chessboard out. If you've never played, learn a new board game, learn come to classes like this, learn something, like scroll through the schedule and go, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could make art with the recycled, things. I think there's a class on recycled. I think there's a class on toilet rolls, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I took it. There is. Yes.
Oh yeah. Did you make anything exciting with the toilet rolls?
I didn't make it, but they were absolutely amazing. What she made, I didn't do it. There was
Oh,
more
cool.
to see what could be done in an hour.
Okay, cool. My mother-in-law was visiting here in Victoria for a couple months because it's cold where they live. So they came to Victoria for a few months. And so her big treat every day was getting a Starbucks. I mean, I don't even really drink coffee that much, but Starbucks. So she took what are the warmers? What are those things called? The little sleeve, the sleeve. She took the Starbucks sleeves, and she's kind of creative. She was a teacher. And she created something and made this chain, like it's almost like a Christmas decoration from these Starbucks things. I mean, whatever it is, keep your brain active. So learning and challenging your brain to do something new. Doesn't mean do the same crossword over and over, or, they say if you do the same thing, you're not really helping your brain anymore. You're just getting better at that one thing. So there's some truth in that. So try to mix it up, do something different. Come to other classes of mine. We do talk and have fun with things. Embracing a healthy diet. We already talked about this. Limit your processed foods, those packaged things. Think of the rainbow when you go grocery shopping. Try a vegetable you've never tried before. Ask the produce guy. Don't be afraid. Say, hey, what is this? I don't know how to cook with fennel. That's my latest one I'm going to try with fennel, the fresh fennel. I'm going to try doing something with it. I don't even know what you do with it, but I'll figure it out. Make sure you chew your food. You want to just embrace that healthier diet. Making conscious and safe choices. If you're going to ride a bike, wear your helmet. Don't just wear it properly, tight, have it proper so that when you fall, the helmet doesn't fly backwards, like that can happen if your helmet's not on properly. Back in the day, like my dad worked around heavy equipment. That's probably why he has a bit of a hearing issue now. Heavy equipment was not mandatory to cover your ears, put earplugs in. But nowadays they've got those ear things you can put on. You put your earplugs in. If you're going to like a concert that's loud, which we don't have any concerts lately, but just protect your head and your eyes. Protect your eyes with goggles if you're cutting the lawn or doing anything where you could get hit in the eye. So that's super important. Managing your stress, and we've talked a little bit about this. Anything to reduce your stress in your life is important. Take personal time for you. Get your quality sleep. That's managing your stress by getting quality sleep. This is super important, and I want to mention it. Seek help if you are finding that you're struggling with things by yourself at home, or even with a couple. You don't have to feel bad if there's two of you and you're still struggling with things like maybe getting your garbage cans out on time. And the most important is please accept help. If you've got a family member, a kind neighbor, the kid across the street, somebody wants to help, accept the help. We often don't, oh, no, I'm fine. Thank you so much. And we don't. Do you know that by accepting the help, not only are you helping yourself, but you're helping that person. That person's going to feel needed, fulfilled. They've done a kind gesture. So accept the support and the help. All right, this is what we're going to spend the last few minutes on. Brain foods. So this list comes from one of my top mentors. His name is Jim Quick. His latest book, or it might even be his first book he wrote, called Limitless. The word limitless, if you want to look it up. Jim Quick, fascinating gentleman. He's in his early 50s, I believe. He had a bad head injury when he was a child. He couldn't think, and school was tough for him. He had to try 10 times harder than any other kid. So he's made it his lifelong journey now to focus on brain health and helping improve our memory. Anything to do with the brain, he's your guy, Jim Quick. This is his list. What are the top brain foods? You might want to write these down. I don't have this on a handout yet, but I've got to get this handout created. Number 1, avocados. Excellent source of healthy fats. Don't forget, our brain needs the healthy fats to function. It needs that healthy cholesterol. You need to eat healthy fats, the nuts, the seeds, the avocado. That's our number 1 brain food. Helps your blood to flow proper too. The next one is blueberries. Jim Quick calls blueberries brain berries. It's kind of a fun way to remember it. Oh, I better have my brain berries today. Put them on your oatmeal, on your porridge, put them in your smoothies, have it just fresh in a bowl. You can make a beautiful vinaigrette, blueberry vinaigrette from it. You'll get that recipe from my 7 Healing Foods class. It protects all the things that age us. Blueberries can protect us from. So and fresh if you can get it, but if you can't get fresh, buy frozen. Flash frozen is just as healthy. And just pull out a few for breakfast. I like to eat my fruit in the morning on an empty stomach. That's the nicest way to eat your fruit, on an empty stomach, because it digests so quickly. So if you go and eat a huge heavy meal and then eat fruit afterwards, guess where the fruit sits? That fruit sits on top of the food that's down here digesting. And this is so fast that this starts to ferment. And then you have problems going, the GERD and the problems up into there. So if you find that eating fruit is giving you heartburn, it's because you've probably eaten something else before you ate your fruit. Just switch it up. Eat your fruit on the empty stomach, let it digest and let you get all those great vitamins and minerals, and then eat your meal. It's a little bit of a shift, I know. For most of us, sometimes we like to have fruit for dessert, but try shifting it if you have some stomach issues. Broccoli, I talked about broccoli, amazing fiber in broccoli, amazing fiber, beautiful, rich vitamins, vitamin K. Coconut oil, our brains love coconut oil. For anybody who has heard that coconut oil is not good for you, think again, do the research, look it up. It's an amazing food. It helps us to stay in fat burning, which is what we want. We want to burn the fat in our bodies. It's what they call the medium chain fatty acids. You know how we need the fatty acids, right, in our body. Eggs is another brain food. For some small percentage of people, eggs can be inflammatory, so it can cause inflammation in your body. So just double check, test eggs. Do you feel okay after you eat eggs? Or are you feeling a little bit not so good after eggs? Okay, think about that one. But it has a thing called choline in it, and that helps with memory. And it's got the omega-3s, which we know is important. Green leafy vegetables, spinach, kale, collard greens, any dark green vegetables our brain loves. Why does our brain love salmon? Because it's got the omega-3s in it. So the oily fish, that salmon, deep water fish. The last 3, turmeric. Who's heard of turmeric? It's a spice. It's that yellow spice. Yeah. You can put a little, it's kind of bitter, so you want to put it in your cooking, put it in your soups, put it a tiny bit in your smoothie if you'd like. It is a #1 top thing for reducing inflammation. And we can get inflammation in our brains as well. So we want to reduce the inflammation, especially if you hit your head. Turmeric is a great, there's like 10,000 studies out there to talk about the health benefits of turmeric. If you're not familiar with turmeric, you might want to bring in turmeric. Walnuts. It's a very, very beautiful, beautiful nut. And if you want to research this, it's kind of fun. You look at the walnut, you crack it open. What does it look like? Looks kind of like a little brain, doesn't it? There's something to be said about what the food looks like and how, if I don't know if God created it that way, but there's truth to this. If the food, like, a carrot, you cut it, you look at it, looks like an eye. Carrots, our eyes love carrots. Our brain loves walnuts. Full of magnesium, helps us lift our mood. And the final one I've got on here is dark chocolate. 70% or higher, not the milk chocolate with the sugars and all that. We're talking about the dark chocolate. It helps with our concentration and our focus, and it stimulates the endorphins. And just lastly, just before we end, I added this in because I want you guys to all be clear on this. Our bodies are made up of 75% water. If you do not drink water, your brain can't do its flush. So body and brain loves water. All right, so I'm going to just stop sharing. So in summary, what did we learn today? We learned about the differences between dementia and Alzheimer's. Now you can explain it to your friends if somebody's kind of unsure about it. And we've understood the risk factors. You're going to get a handout after the class on the risk factors in our control. And we've understood some simple brain health foods, which is amazing. Now, Nikki just mentioned, and this is very true, I would ask that you talk to your doctor about it first. However, you can get turmeric in capsules. If you really have some inflammation in your body and you're wanting to do something natural, you could take turmeric capsules, but talk to your doctor about that before you do that.
Yeah,
So,
why would the doctor say no? Because my doctor said no.
yeah, because, sometimes, I mean, not to put down doctors, because, I love doctors. Sometimes they
hasn't read the
don't
10,000.
know. They don't know. So they rather just say no. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe
Yeah.
next time you go in, take them
No, he
study.
took me off of it.
No, that's what I mean. So if he took you off of it because he doesn't understand it well enough, because he hasn't studied nutrition, most likely. So take an article in and just say, is there any harm? Is there anything contradicting with my medication? If it's not, it's a food, right? Food, you should be able to take foods with medication, but you do need to talk to your doctor or educate your doctor. Sneak it in there and educate your doctor. And then they'll say, hey, well, it can't hurt. Try it. That's probably what he'll say to you next, Renee.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, does anybody else have any questions? I've got another minute or two before I have to go. So there's lots of stuff we can do for our brain. It's kind of exciting. And if you've got a partner and they're not interested in coming to a class, I will send you this handout, just sort of leave the handout out. And then when they say, well, what's this risk factor stuff? I'm pretending to be a guy, but it could be a woman too, right? What's this risk factor stuff? Well, you can say, hey, you want to improve yourself. This is you want to reduce your chances of losing your mind later on in life. Here's some things to take care of. So thank you everybody for being here. I love to see familiar faces. Great to see you, McKenna, and all your gang where you are. And please come again. Invite your friends where you are and in your senior facility where you are. I'd love to see you again. For all of you that are live streaming, thank you for being here in my class. It means a lot to me. I can't see you. I hope to see you one day in class. And I will send out a post email to all of you. Okay, so you will get the post email. And if you have time, please fill out the feedback. If you love the class, give it a 5-star. It helps my rating. If it's not quite a 5-star, but it's a good solid 4-star and you've got some recommendations, please write them in. If there's a class that you haven't seen, especially in health and wellness, and something that you would like to see, type it in there, because I read all of the feedback things that you guys send to me or that are my classes, and I might just create a class just because you've asked for it. So I have to get it passed by I have to send in it as a new idea. But if there's something missing, like I'm kind of thinking right now, a class on improving mood, like things for people that suffer a little bit of depression. I'm also thinking of a class, unless somebody else is doing it, on diabetes, like how can we reduce this type 2 diabetes? So I'm thinking about a health class on that. But if you have something else that you'd like to see, write it in your feedback form. Okay, take care, everybody.
Thank you.
We'll see you
Rita.
again soon. I'm
Thank
teaching tomorrow, 2 classes tomorrow and 1 on Saturday. So bye-bye. Bye,
Bye,
all of
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Nice to see you all.
I hate to tell you, I forgot the class was going until, I'm sorry, I came in late.
Oh, that's okay, Carol. Come back again.
Thank you.
Come back to a
Thank
class
you very
again.
much.